Welcome to the Practically Speaking podcast. I am Marieno. I'm your host, and this is it. Yeah. Hey, I hope everybody's doing great. I hope you are just experiencing life. We're about to go into the holidays, and we all know what that is like and what that comes with and what it can entail. So I'm praying for everybody as you go into the holidays. I'm praying that it is good time with family, and those that have lost loved ones. I'm praying your strength in the holidays as well. But yeah, I'm excited about today, and here's why. Well, I'll get into all that. I really will. But I am excited about today. I'm excited about today's episode. And I hope y'all are too. I hope everything's been well on y'all's end. So this past week has been very interesting for me. And I know that you may have a lot of things that you might be navigating through right now, and some questions about things and where is life going and all of those things. My prayer is that God would meet you. This is what it's all about, that God would practically speak to you and get you the things that you need, the things you've been seeking him in. And so this past week, let me tell y'all where I've been with this podcast. I was on a super high when I felt like God first told me about the podcast. And I was doing things just straight out of faith. And some things happened where it didn't go as planned, like I wanted it to go. And so then I had to pivot. And when I pivoted, I kind of just took things in my own hand because I felt like if God said it, then you need to do it. Like there is no time to be playing around. You need to do it. And I explained to y'all some time ago that when God speaks and tells you something, and you believe that he's asked you to do something, that it needs to be done. Not wait to be done, wait to things fall in place, but stepping out of faith is stepping out when things are not always in place. When all of the things are not lining up, you're still just stepping out on faith. That's what faith is. It's going one step at a time. And I did that. I feel like that when he speaks, that the grace for that season is for that season. And so if he's asked you to do something, then he's giving you the grace to be able to do it for that particular season. Not to say that his grace does not cover us in any other season, but if he's asked you to do something, I believe that there is a grace on it for that particular moment. And I didn't want to miss that grace. I didn't want to miss what God has asked me to do. And I will say, looking back on that, I didn't know how to hook up things. I got some technical know-how, but I didn't know how sound work with cameras and settings on cameras, microphone, podcast setup, all that type of stuff. I did not have understanding on, and here we are, like 18 episodes in, and I think I got pretty good camera settings. Still making some changes. Listen, this is not the end all be all. And I'm saying all that to say is because I took one step at a time and kept walking, just off of what I believe God had told me. But here we are now. This is what I want to talk about today. Last week, I was scrolling through Instagram. I use Instagram for inspiration. Like I find things to help me either make this better or my personal page better, to help get out what I'm trying to get out, or what I feel like God has called me to give out. I use my platforms to basically share God, and that's through my life. That's through anything. If it's me and the kids out trick or treating or something like that, it's all intertwined, because I believe that God is in our life. He's in every part of our life, and so that's what I use my social media for. Well, I was getting to this place about the podcast. If you've noticed, I was doing them weekly, and then I kind of got discouraged, and I'll tell you why. Because subscribers, feedback as far as looking at when I would post a reel, not many likes, not many conversation starters, and it was just like, this sucks. This doesn't feel good. And so I kind of got the zeal that I had for it was kind of weighing. It was kind of leaving me. And discouragement was kind of settling in. And, I wasn't doing them weekly. So I was skipping like 2 weeks, and then I'll come back and I'll record one. And then it just began to make this snowball effect of how I felt about the podcast. Well, this past week, I was on Instagram. And if any of you know anything about the algorithm and how social media work, it's just really a lot of technical terms. The algorithm is this thing essentially that guides how and what you see, and where your stuff goes, and how people can see your stuff. And it's changed over the years. And so Instagram, it does different things. The previous algorithm was more quantity driven. So if you posted a lot, then you got a lot of views. A lot of people saw your stuff. It hit a lot of different people's accounts, where the new algorithm is more quality driven. So camera shots, captions, virtual hooks, all that stuff. And so last week I was just looking at reels, and the algorithm will suggest reels to you based on what it feels like your account is doing. And last week I was strolling, and every reel that I was looking at dealt with camera settings, background lighting, what terms to use, all of that. And I was just like, this is weird. This is very weird. But I end up learning so much in those reels. Like, I saved a ton of reels. Learned a lot of things about verbiage to use and all of that. And so fast forward, yesterday I was looking on Instagram again, and I came across a post from Pastor Mike Todd. And he was talking about faith. And he basically said that that what people are, they're not walking by faith, they're looking for feedback. And he's basically saying that faith causes us to do things out of obedience. But what people are doing is they're looking for feedback. That if God said something, then they're looking for people's feedback to if they're doing it right. But he was saying, no, faith is you're doing it based off of what God said. That like you're not even looking for feedback. You're just out here on faith. And it pricked my heart because I realized that I went from just out here on faith to looking for feedback. And I love y'all. I really do. I love y'all. I love the comments that I do get. I love the people who do follow me. But that had to put this back in perspective for me, that I'm not looking for feedback. That even if I don't get a like or a subscriber or a share, that I'm out here on faith. That I'm out here on faith. That faith is the reason that this podcast is here. It's not here for you to like me or dislike me. It's great if you do give me feedback, and I thank God for it. But that's not the gist of this thing. The thing is, I'm out here on faith. And so it really just pricked me, and it was like a gentle nudge from God saying, yeah, get back to what I asked you to do. And this is what the podcast was created for, is that God is using our normal life situations and he's speaking to us. But what if I was not even open and I was just looking at reels for reels? But everything that happened last week while I was strolling through social media, I believe was God directing me back. Yeah, it's cool that you are trying to make this look as great as you want it to look, but don't lose the reason behind it. I don't mind you working on the look of it because you want to present the best podcast that you can. But don't forget what I called you to do with this and why you're doing this. That you're doing this out of faith. At the end of the day, that if you don't get feedback, it does not dictate that I spoke to you about it. And so I thought about a scripture. I just want to really want to get comfortable with y'all today. I want to go back to what it's supposed to be. Romans 10:17. It says, so faith comes from hearing, and hearing by the word of Christ. Faith comes from hearing, and hearing by the word of Christ. And I thought about that scripture because we won't move. No, here it is. Let me put it this way. Listening and seeking for God's voice is what we should desire to do. And the more you do that, the more you will understand his voice. The more you read the Bible, the more you understand his voice. And so the more you understand his voice, the more you become comfortable that when he asks you to do something, that my hearing is attached to my faith. That what I hear God says will give gas to my faith. That when I'm listening to God, that my faith is ignited based off of what God has told me. I don't know about you, but when I first heard or felt like I heard the voice of God, and it wasn't an audible voice, it was more of a internal nudging. It was the most exciting feeling I had ever had in my life. And what that did for me was make me pursue him more. Because I was like, wait a minute, the God of this universe nudged me, spoke to my heart, and gave me some understanding to something that I know that I wouldn't even understood in my own understanding or my own right. Like I wouldn't have even thought of it. It's outside of what I would normally think. We know how we are. Like I know how I am as a person. I know how I think sometimes. And what he spoke to me was outside the realm of how I even think. So I wouldn't have even thought that. And so that pushed me to want to know him more. Faith comes by hearing. So when I heard him the first time, it pushed me to want to find him more. And so if I felt like God told me about this podcast, to step out here and do this podcast on faith, when I heard it, I had this like desire just to go do it. Like I was like, well, let's go do it. Yeah, let's do it. Like I was out there, I was just looking at stuff. I was finding equipment. I was like, this and that. And then I hit a roadblock. Subscribers were not coming in. Likes were not coming in as well. And people were not really commenting on things about it. And that snatched away my faith. Because I was hearing the wrong thing. I was hearing the wrong thing. I was hearing or listening for feedback. And if I got the feedback, then that would give me the next thing to do. But that's not what it's supposed to be like. No. My faith is what keeps me going. Faith is taking the step when you can't see the next step. Faith is walking in the dark. And I know most of us can relate to that, because if you sleeping at night and you have to get up to go to the restroom, we don't turn on no lights. I know I don't. But I get up and I walk in the dark, believing I'm going to make it to the bathroom. Faith is walking in the dark. It's walking and believing that God will give me the next step. Faith comes by hearing. So the more I hear him, the more it's going to pump up my faith. It's like it levels up each time I hear him. It's like, the bars on your phone when your phone's about to go dead, like they got little bars, and it'll tell you how low it is. That's what I feel like our faith is. Whenever we hear God's voice, a bar comes in our battery. Like every time a bar comes in our battery. And we can't get caught up in the feedback. Feedback is great, but you got to go back to what God asked you to do. You have to go back to the reason why you're doing this, and it's because God said it. God sees the beginning and the end. He sees all in between. If he asks you to do it, he already knows what the end looks like. We can't get caught up in what the end looks like, and we're not even starting in the beginning. It's the process of walking this thing out. And so faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of Christ. So what has God told you? What has God told you that you started out on this, like going for it hard, but the feedback, you got caught up in the feedback. Like you started looking for the feedback, wondering if you was doing the right thing based off of what people said. And it gets tricky because I know for me, I was like, okay, God, I hear what you're saying, but so am I not walking by faith when I'm trying to make my podcast quality wise look good and I'm looking at all these other things? No, there's a difference. No, you're just trying to present the best thing of what God has told you to do. It becomes an issue when you are looking at your likes and your comments and your subscribers and believing your success off of that. But by faith, your success is not based off of what you can see. It's based off of what you cannot see. It's based off your obedience. You have become successful when you stepped out on faith. When you believed God said a thing and you did it. That's success. It's not based off of the algorithm. It's not based off of numbers. It's not based off of Susan down the street's comment. It's not based off of that. It's you taking step by step, walking this thing out, trusting God every step of the way. Faith comes by hearing. The more I hear, the more faithful I become. And so I wanted to talk about that today. I needed to bring it back to reality for me because this was never meant for me to be so focused on where it's going or what it's looked like or who it's going to reach. All those things are great, but my only focus should be that God said it. God said do it. So I'm doing it based off what God said. So whatever the results are or are not, God said it. And leave all the rest of that up to God. God knows what he's doing. And I got to be okay with that. Now, here's the flip side of it. I'm most certainly not saying that walking by faith is easy, because it's not. Walking by faith is not easy. It takes a determination to believe that, one, there is a God. And although I cannot see him, I'm still going to trust him. My circumstances don't look well, but I'm going to walk by faith. And the thing about it is, we're actually using faith in our everyday life. We just don't realize it. And I think the difference is we can see things versus we can't see God. Like by faith, you go sit in a chair. You don't know if that chair is going to hold you up or not. By faith, you sitting in it. By faith, you believe this chair is going to hold me up. And we do it without even thinking about it. We just sit down. So it's taking that mindset, but with God. Why can't we just trust God? And that's where it gets hard. Trusting something we can't see. He's not a something, he's a he, or he's God. It's trusting. It's trusting. And I wanted to just talk about faith and walking it out no matter what. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of Christ. because I got mixed up, man. I got, because I know what would happen. I know what would happen, and this is because I've seen it happen in my life before. I'll start off like really like going hard for it, and then the feedback doesn't look great. Then I find myself just like slowly not doing it to the point that I didn't do it anymore. And here's the thing. This is the scary part. Like, that if I do this like that, what if I miss what God really had for me because of the feedback? I was looking for the feedback, rather. God really might have something stored up for me, but I didn't even give it a chance because I was so stuck on the feedback. And the feedback snatched my joy. It snatched my zeal. When the more I hear, the more faith I get. I'm still learning this stuff, man. I am still learning this stuff. Really still learning this stuff. So I'm always believe that God is using our life to have conversation with us. And he's talking through it. And I'm so thankful that he's that mindful of us, or of me, to take the time to say, hey, yeah, so listen, you're taking a detour right now and you don't need to. Like, you're going down a road I never meant for you to go down. And I know you saw the traffic up above there. So you figure that you'll just go this way based off of what you see. But I just need you to stay right here. I saw the traffic before you saw the traffic. And I know that on the other side of the traffic is where I need you to be. So don't take the detour. The feedback is great, but the feedback should not be my motivation. It is not my motivation. My motivation is that God said it. So do it. My motivation is based off of me walking when I can't see the next step. That's my motivation. That it's applying the faith that I use in my everyday life to sit in a chair, to get in the car, and to drive. All these things that I'm doing by faith. I don't think about, okay, put the car in park, put it in drive. Oh, okay, check. I just do it. I'm just believing that the car is going to go when I put it in drive. That's the same way with God. Why can't we do that with God? Why does he have to get the last? And then we wrap it in the excuse of, I can't see him. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, we can't see him. But you believed enough that he spoke to you. So you got to believe enough that he ain't leaving you down the wrong way. If you believe he spoke to you, then you should believe that he told you the right thing to do, that you should just step out there and do it. That even if it doesn't look right or look like it's going in the right direction, I believe that he spoke to me. That's it. So I'm walking that no matter what. And continue to walk no matter what. That the thing God has told me is not based off of how you feel about me or don't feel about me, or the likes or subscribers that I do or do not get, but it's out of obedience. And it's humbling when God corrects you, because he does it in such a loving manner. And here's the thing, he knows how to correct us. He corrects us each differently, but it's all still founded on love. And I felt like God corrected me by showing me, hey, yeah, you can work on the quality of it. That's cool. I want you to work on the quality of it. And here's what you could do. And this is why I'm seeing all these reels about verbiage and how to do this and lighting and setting, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'll give you that. Work on the quality. I want you to present me in the best way you can. Work on the quality. But here, then take this reel to help you realize why you're doing this. And it's not because of feedback. It's because of faith. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing the word of Christ. Not hearing what Jim said about it. Not hearing what your friends said about it. Not hearing what social media said about it. Because the more I hear them, the more I do not walk by faith. The more I miss out on what God is doing in my life or trying to do in my life. All those things are doing for me is allowing the space for the enemy to come in and sow seeds. Seeds of doubt, seeds of fear, seeds of pride. Whereas hearing God's word, sow seeds of faith. Sow seeds of you can do it. Sow seeds, listen, I put it in you. Sow seeds that you got the strength to do it. Sow seeds, have you forgot who you are? Sow seeds of you can walk this thing out. Sow seeds of you're bigger than who you think you are. That's what Christ's word does. That's what it does. It builds you up to walk like his son. Man, can you imagine if you really just walked like Jesus? And here's the thing. I'm not saying we can walk like him, but I am saying we can have faith like him. Like, what if you just walked up in a room and you believed that if God said it and you said it in the room and the atmosphere changed? What if you believed that? What if you really just walked like that? What if you believed that if you spoke to a sickness in your body right now and it just changed? And I'm not talking about some magical stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about faith. Is what I'm talking about. Faith to believe that God is bigger than anything that I come against or anything that I see. Faith to believe that God's voice is always there. Faith to believe that he is walking with me no matter what. And even if you don't like me, that's okay. I'm not on your time. I still love you, but I'm not on your time. God told me to do this. God told me to walk this out like this. So you can either walk with me, you could either encourage me along the way, you could either keep accountability for me, help me be accountable to it. But if you get in my way, I'm going to keep walking. Because I got the God of the universe back at me. And guess what? He's a little stronger than you are. That's the kind of faith that we need to walk in. Faith comes by hearing. And once I've heard him one time, it should motivate me to keep hearing him, to keep seeking for him, to keep looking for him. There's a verse in the Bible that says, seek him. And seek him. Just seek him. It talks about seeking him. Just seek God. And when I think about seeking, I think about hide and seek when I was younger. And we played hide and seek. Like I was so intent to find the person and no by and at any cost, I was trying to find them. Like I should be intentionally looking for God in everywhere in my life, open to how He may want to speak to me, no matter what. And that's how I find the next step. That's how I know what to do next. So the first step was, he said, start a podcast. And I don't even think that step is even over right there. I think that step is still going on, to start a podcast. I think it's so much inside of just that one step. But here I am trying to push it to the next step. And I don't even think God has even given me the next step yet. Start the podcast is what he said. And rest in that first step. Don't move beyond God. Do the thing he said and stay doing it until he gives you the next step. How do I find the next step? You keep seeking him. You keep seeking him. So I wanted to share that today, man. I really did. I really did. I just want to talk about faith, man. I know it's hard. I know it's hard to trust something you can't see, to believe something that maybe I heard or maybe I not heard. But here's the thing. Even if you felt like you heard them, do it anyway. Do it anyway. Because I believe that God will come back and redirect you if you didn't hear him all correct. We've talked about that before. If you got 1% to believe that if you believe that you heard him, do it. I think I gave y'all the illustration about voting. A candidate wins off of 1%. If the race is 50-50 and the one candidate gets 51, he's won. So if you got 51%, if it was on a scale from I would say 1 to 50, I think is what I would say. If you got 51%, believing that God has said something, walk on it. Step out there on faith and do it. Because the longer that you sit and try to make it all average up to get up to the 100%, the longer you're going to miss what God is doing in your life. Because you're looking for feedback. And faith and feedback are two different things. Faith is the language of heaven. Feedback is the language of earth. They don't work together. So yeah, man, here we are. I think this episode 18, I think it is. We're almost at the end of season 2. And here's the thing I'm going to tell you. I don't know what this looks like. All I know is what God said. And he said, start the podcast. And here we are. Start the podcast. I'll stay there until God tells me to move. My prayer is that whatever he said to you, that you do it. Not based off of people's feedback, but based off of your faith. Y'all know I'm rocking with y'all. Y'all know I love you. I'm rocking with you. We're going to keep pushing no matter what. Hey, share it with somebody. Share it with somebody. Maybe what I've said may have inspired you, may have pushed you, may have helped you see something differently. Share. Share it with it. And y'all know I'm going to see you on the next one. See you on the next one. Y'all be blessed. Check you later. Peace.